How are you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk Live. Oh, hey, Connie, is that you next to me? Well, I didn't know we were sitting
That's
at the same
me.
table. Hey, we're going to have a great discussion today. We're going to be talking about working during the holidays, what it's like to work, during the holidays, during this time of season. I think it's not easy. I think a lot of people think it is easy to work the holidays, and we're telling you right now that it's not. We know the role, we know what it is that we are obligated to do, but having said that, it's still not an easy thing to do. So we're having this discussion, one, to show people that we appreciate them, but but for number two, to let the public know, we do work the holidays. It's a sacrifice, the things that we sacrifice in order to work the holidays to make sure that the public is safe and secure, but also the inmates that are in our custody are still being taken care of. So it's a great sacrifice that we make every year. And I think it's definitely something worth noting. Now, before I introduce Connie, let me just get the sponsors out of the way. And by the way, guys, I want to stay focused real quick on questions that relate to working the holidays, at least for the first 3 to 4 hours. Then after that, we could jump. I'm joking, Connie. Did you get the joke? Did you see what I did?
I did.
You were just going to go along. Wait, so I have 3 or 4 hours with you?
I didn't want to respond to 3 to 4 hours.
I saw your nostrils open up a little bit, though, when I said 3 or 4 hours. That's why you listen. If you guys ever watch the replay of this, gotta put it in slow motion. Like, you know what I mean? So, all right. So let me get your sponsors real quick, guys. If you get a chance, please check out American Military University. It's a great online school. They've been supportive of me doing Tier Talk since day one, literally day one. But more importantly, they support what we do in corrections. So get a chance, American Military University. Again, it's a good chance to bring experience into the classroom. We also have Guardian RFID. From inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based business and artificial intelligence, Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit guardianrfid.com for more information. And we also have the WRAP, W-R-A-P. If you're not familiar with the WRAP, I have a link to that video in the description. Controlling combative subjects quickly and in an upright position so they can breathe has never been more important. Departments such as Washington, D.O.C., L.A. County, San Diego County, and hundreds of other facilities across the U.S. trust and believe in the WRAP restraint, W-R-A-P. Go to saferestraints.com for contact information. Mention Tier Talk to receive instructor training at no cost. Low reliability for your facility and your personnel with the WRAP. Give the WRAP a call today, 800-WRAP-911. So, Connie, do you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Connie's here again, right? Like, I love doing this with him. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. I'm also the podcast host of The Fly Behind the Wall and the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something that should be delightful, but it's not so much, right? For those who continue to work and, answer that call when it's holiday time. So we are definitely going to explore all the angles we possibly can. Hopefully, I see some people already on. So I look forward to the comments and the questions that may come through.
Yeah, this video is also a way of saying thank you for making that sacrifice. I know it's not easy, so obviously it's appreciated. And let's see, we got Ash and M. Hey, thank you for all you do. Hey, Xephiel finally made it. Good evening, Xephiel. We got John V. What's up, John? And loud and proud, our boy Joe. What's up, Joe? Hi, Tony. Hi, Connie. Hello, everyone. I like how I did that in order of importance. Tony, Connie, and everyone. I'm kidding. I usually get Connie, everyone, people that aren't on, people that will never be on, and let's not forget Gangi's kids, then Gangi's wife. What the hell, Gangi? That's how it usually is. Hey, guys, this is an important topic. It is relevant because obviously the holidays are coming, and it's a sacrifice that we make that's not always noted or appreciated. I know it's a sacrifice I made a few times. I will tell you, I had kids later in life, 35 and again at 40. So I did miss out on a lot of family functions. But again, I became administration in 2015. So my daughter was only 3 at the time. So having said that, I've been pretty much involved in a lot of the holidays since then. So I have been blessed. But I do know to some extent what it is to miss a few. I just didn't have kids at the time. So again, I want people to know, obviously, to me, the holidays is really about the children. But with that said, it's also about spending time with the family. So we're going to talk about basically our mindset, how we got to remain focused and do what we do, what our family thinks, because that's a great thing, forgiving us for working the holidays like it's our choice. I'm sure people are familiar with that. And then also, hey, Jen, hey, Connie. Boy, Anthony's, look what she did. You see what Jen did? You see what Jen did? Hey, Major League Liberty, what up? That was purposeful, Jen. That was purposeful. And then also we're going to kind of talk about some reminders of stuff that we have to do with the inmate population as well. Okay, so first, Connie, medical as well, working in a prison. Have you given up some holidays or some events?
So absolutely, I've had to give up plenty of holidays, right? Facility operations doesn't really care that it's a holiday, right? At the end of the day, if there's any operational disruption that requires medical coordination, whether it's moving inmates from an entire housing unit to another, from the facility to a new facility, I've been called in for quite a few things. I've missed some titles. I've missed some, gymnastics events. I've missed quite a few things course of my career, but commitment to doesn't change. Your
got a bad connection, Connie. Sorry, you got a bad connection. You're going in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my side.
Okay.
Guys, can you hear her? Okay or no? You're losing a little bit of clarity. It's okay. Can you? Yeah, I just don't want to lose the thought.
Okay. So the commitment to the job, the commitment to the staff, right? Because it's one thing that the warden's calling for you. It's another thing when you don't show up for the staff. So for me, it's really been, a big thing to make sure that I've been present at times when I could have stayed home with my family, but it is what it is.
Yeah, what's funny, guys, again, I've been lucky. I didn't have kids until I was about 35, as I mentioned, but I have been able to go back and look at some pictures because I lost my dad in 2016. So there was a lot of events that we could have been at together, but unfortunately I did have to work. But I will tell you one thing. I knew I was working. I scheduled myself. I prepared myself. So I didn't let it beat me down to the point. I think me and Connie were discussing this before. When we talk about the holiday season, and guys, this is just some being optimistic here, having some positivity here. Holiday seasons are more than just one day. I know me and Connie were talking about, the holiday seasons are a buildup. It's like, practicing, and all of a sudden you're not allowed to play the final game. You're not allowed to play the game, but yet you're involved in the practice the whole way, but you're not allowed to play the final game. And sometimes what happens here is that we remain focused on that final day, that we don't realize that the practice is also fun. I mean, I remember finding myself miserable when we're shopping for everything, and I would tell my wife, yeah, but it sucks. I got to work Christmas. I got to work Christmas. I got to work Christmas. And, and the fact is I'm not enjoying the day of shopping during the holidays, spending at least those times with my wife at the time, or maybe just having fun shopping in case my parents, her parents, immediate family. So what I started to remember, and just to kind of remain positive, is that it's a holiday season. So you may not be there for that one day, but there's still things along the way that you can appreciate, the moments that lead to the holiday, because I think that also matters, because again, it's time with your family. So again, we'll talk about spending the one day, but I want people to realize that, don't just dread the fact, okay, well, because I'm not going to be there when the children open up the gifts on Christmas morning, it doesn't mean that I can't be part of the journey, the process it takes to get us to Christmas morning, because I still think that's part of the holiday season. So whether I get 1 day, 2 days, or whatever it is, I just think, you don't want to ruin the whole season because you can't be there for 1 day. And I think also, if you're really in the moment with your family and maybe you can't be there for that 1 day, maybe they'll kind of understand a little bit more because you're there with them through the journey without, the whole way. But Connie, what's your thoughts on basically treating it as a holiday season as opposed to just being focused on that 1 day?
So I think it's great for us to have a positive perspective as being a holiday season, which means we've got sort of the end quarter of the year, right? To kind of going from September with Labor Day all the way through till, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all of that goodness, right? But I think the challenge, I think, when people think about the holiday season is that in light of um, knowing that you could possibly be stuck, you could be mandated. I think it's everything associated with that. Despite that, it might just be Christmas, right? But it was Christmas last year, and it's important for us to talk about that, right? It was Christmas the year before last, right? It was making that tough phone call to your family member, to your wife, your children, to say you're not going to make it home for Christmas this year. Or, for those significant others who say, well, why don't you put in for Christmas now for next year, right? So that you can at least get a Christmas. And yeah, I think we've got family members sometimes who just don't understand that regardless of us putting in the time a year in advance, the reality is that if someone decides not to come to work, you could technically be held over, and it's not your fault, right? But it's still that gut-wrenching feeling to have to make the phone call, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Because
I remember
you don't
that.
know, well, you know how your spouse is going to feel about that. You know how your kids are going to feel about you not coming home for yet another Christmas, right? Or feel about that or maybe it's the personal feeling, right? Like you don't want to disappoint your family. And that phone call is almost that confirmation of the disappointment, the tone of voice that you're going to hear when you actually say you're not going to be able to be there. So it's just like, I think we want to speak positively and be practical about, what happens when you are in a role where you can't just leave, right? Because it would be you abandoning post, or it would be, because I've had nurses who they just want to go home. They can't leave until the next person comes in, right? Like that's just a reality. They can't leave their shift or else they're abandoning their patients. And so I just imagine what it feels like if someone decides they're going to leave the housing unit.
Yeah, and you know what's funny, Connie, what you're touching on? I always when I had to work the holidays, especially if it wasn't prepared, let's say I did get stuck, you know, it's you expect some resistance from your family, but when they start to accept it and they're quiet on the other end, that also becomes a worry because now they're getting used to you not being there. And it's funny because you want to encourage them to have a good time and don't worry about me, guys. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Don't miss me. And then when you get home, you're kind of upset because they did have a good time and they didn't miss you. You know, so I mean, it's just it's a world of paradoxes, if you will. But having said that, you know, it's my biggest concern was when that became expected. So what I mean by that, guys, is that the family knows it can always be a chance. But having said that, what about when they start planning the holidays as if you're not going to be there? You know, but now you know you have the day off. You could be there, and all of a sudden you're the unexpected guest. You know, oh, we didn't know you were going to be here, so we didn't set you a plate, or we already opened up the kids' gifts. We didn't know that you were going to be here this early. You know, I think any spouse should understand that their spouse's job requires extenuating circumstances. Well said, Joe. And also to touch on that, so as Connie was mentioning, the phone call, how we leave at the end of that dialogue is going to kind of it's going to kind of mess with our attention a little bit because if I feel that first of all I'm dreading this phone call because I'm really dreading the response from my significant other, from my kids, whatever it is. So when I make that phone call and I let them know, hey, I got to get stuck here, and if the dialogue is just not where it needs to be, where I feel comfortable that I was able to express the reasons why and they fully understand, that takes its toll. Because I'm going to tell you something, the whole time when we should remain focused on what we're doing on our job, we're not. We're focused on where we should be. And that's hard for us to kind of be effective when our mind isn't in the present. That's why if you're a family member and you're watching this or you're watching on a replay, whatever it is you got to be mindful of the mindset that you leave your spouse with when they're calling you about a situation that's out of their control. As again, we're dreading the phone call, not because, it's something that we were concerned about. We know this could happen. We're dreading the phone call because we're concerned about the reaction on the other end. So when the family doesn't, again, this is out of our control, but when our family believes it's not, and they start giving us these solutions that in their mind they're reasonable, but in our mind, nope, not going to happen. Oh, just leave. You worked enough for all this other stuff. No, you can't do that. That's your job. And it's funny because if you told them the same thing, they wouldn't do it. It's just weird. They expect more. But having said that, now that stress or the anxiety of what you're going home to is going to carry out with you as you're walking your tears and doing your rounds, checking on the patients in Connie's case. But Connie, what's your thought on that interaction with your family?
So, I mean, I think that, most spouses, most family members, especially when you've been on the job for a fairly long time, they kind of understand, right? And I think they understand how stressful it can be on you being away from the family, having to be at work, right? And you're gonna miss dinner, right? And perhaps, like Loud and Proud said, you may have a spouse who's willing to pack you the Christmas, the Thanksgiving dinner, send you with the stuff that would kind of make you still have a piece of home with you wherever you are, and I think those are the great times when, spouses and families, they show up and they let you know that you're supported. I just think there are those challenging times where you may not necessarily get that level of support. It could be some other stressor on the spouse, right? Like, so in the instance when you have children, right? Like, it's not so much maybe the spouse is like, concerned that you're not there. It could be also the kids. Oh, daddy's not home or mommy's not home, right? I remember my mom calling me one day while I was called into the office. And, at the time, I think Kendall might have been 3 or 4. And she wanted to know why I wasn't at her recital. And of course, my mom is like, hey, mom had to go to work and she's taking care of some things and blah, blah, blah. But like your 3-4-year-old doesn't really understand that, right? Like they don't understand the complexities of your commitment to work or your commitment to whatever you're obligated to. And so I think even though you may have that support and there may be some other things that might contribute to, simply you not being able to be present and for you to understand why.
Yeah, it's a good point by Joe, and we'll get to that. Holidays have many similarities and effects on us as does the inmates as well. We should keep that in mind when we're working holidays. Inmates are going through issues that require our attention. Yes, and to be objective, we're not going to have a dialogue that says it's expected. You made the choices, and, it's not. It's about how the moment is. I mean, again, people could easily say to us, well, you made this a job. You wanted this as a career, and you got to just deal with it. And you could say the same thing to the inmate population. Well, you could just deal with it because you committed these crimes and just deal with it. But the problem is, guys, that just doesn't solve anything because at the moment, we're dealing with what people feel in the moment. And it is, and I like the fact that Major League agreed with that. It is a very good point.
I think the other thing I wanted to add to that too is, although I know we don't want to make the show about what the inmates are going through because we really do want to provide support to the staff, I also want us to be mindful that this is a time where we have high rates of inmate suicide, right? And so as a staff person who's going into work, it may not be an easy night, right? So I think we have to be mindful that on top of the fact that you are at work during the holiday season or on Christmas Day, right? You're at work at that time. And then you may have a significant critical incident that happens at that time, right? You have an attempted suicide or multiple ones, right? Which compounds those feelings you might already be having, right? Like there's a such thing as holiday depression, right? And many people go through it. Many people don't acknowledge it. They kind of just chalk it up to, I'm having holiday blues, right? I just don't feel like it. But I think we want to be mindful that on top of going to a facility, some people it may not be a big deal. Others who, they wanted time off, they didn't get it. It may be a big deal, but you want to just know that there are other things that could be contributing to making that day much more tense and stressful and hard to get through not simply just the having to be in the facility at that time.
Right. And can I tell you something, guys? It really comes with the comparison of where they're at and where their family's at. Same thing with us, no different. Same mindset as Joe mentioned. It kind of is in regards to the context. The context is we're here where we don't want to be, why our family's creating memories without us. And the funny thing is, you know what tends to get to you is when you look back and you don't see yourself in the pictures, and you can't recall if you were there those days because you've been so inconsistent because of the schedule that your family automatically assumes that even if you were taking the picture, they weren't there that day, because it becomes an assumption. And Connie, you mentioned something with your daughter, which I think is phenomenal, is the fact that the kids don't understand the sacrifice. They're not. They want their daddy. They want their mommy. So they're not understanding that I have to go to work. Where technically, I hope your spouse or your partner does understand, so they're able in the moment explain it a little bit more, because it's not even just about the preparation for the moment. It's really about the moment itself, a reminder of what daddy's doing or what mommy's doing to, help us have a good holiday to some extent, the service that they're providing, what they bring to the family. But what, to me, the concern is when you have a child that's very young, doesn't understand the context, doesn't understand the demands of the job, what it expects, but starts to accept the fact that you're not coming. And it could come in the fact that, well, daddy, I know you're not going to be there. Or mommy, I know you're not going to be there. Or maybe I could just imagine this. We're all buying Christmas outfits. And you got the kids and you just got mommy, or the other parent just got daddy. Either way, you don't have the person that's working. So all of a sudden, the children that are making these efforts on that specific day automatically know you're not going to be there. So when it comes to these moments of, you're going to create great memories, moments that you hope last for a lifetime, the kids automatically don't think you're there. But it's also how they justify it. As much as you want to tell them it's the demands of the job, they don't see it that way. They just will kind of think that daddy or mommy doesn't want to be there. That's why it's very important how your partner expresses their how they deal with it. Because if they're kind of feeling the same way, then your kids are going to think that. That's why the spouse, guys, if you're family, you should be more supportive of the person making that sacrifice, because the children are going to pick up on that. So when the spouse is unforgiving and saying, hey, this is unfair, when if the kid's hearing it or not, all of a sudden, all the kid hears is, well, I can't believe daddy or mommy don't want to be here. Where as opposed to when you get the moment and you see that kid going through doubt, or maybe they're handing out the shirts and there's not a shirt for daddy because daddy's not there. Mommy could say something real quick, or daddy could say something real quick. Hey, by the way, you know that mommy and daddy would like to be here, but having said that, they have to go to work, but they're going to give us a call in a little bit to tell us they love them. I mean, it's that important, guys, that at least the husband and wife are on the same same page, so that message of love could be translated to the children, who are going to be rather confused as to why mommy and daddy are at work. What's your thoughts on that, kind? Did I hit something there?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I remember being in the clinic, and I remember hearing an officer call his wife, right, from the clinic phone, which I'm like, the clinic phone, you need to go someplace. But he calls the wife, lets the wife know he's not going to be able to come in, and she hung up on him. His disposition changed completely, right? Like, and I think that's something we have to be mindful of as spouses. Like, you want to be supportive because this person is in a place where they have to be on point, right? Like, they have to be functioning at the top of their game, because you just never know what's going to happen. And so the fact that the wife hung up on him, like to say it threw him off kilter was like an understatement. Like, he was in a bad mood for the rest of the afternoon. And quite frankly, like, I think people kind of, because a few of us were around, we kind of didn't bother him, right? Just because we understood where his mind was at based on what we saw. And so I think sometimes, taking the time to explain to your spouse like what the obligation is, why you have to do it, and or even just like the schedule, because I think the schedule could be so crazy. Like I remember on Rikers, I would talk to officers, they're like, oh, I'm on the wheel, I don't know when I'm on or when I'm off. I was like, the wheel, what is that? Like, who could work like that? Who lives like that? Right? And he was like, oh, there's like 3 on 4 off, 3 4. I was like, oh, forget it. But like, just imagine me working there and I don't understand the wheel. What is that translation to like a spouse who doesn't quite get it? Like, and even just trying to figure out like, how do we make plans as a family when someone's on the wheel? Right. So I think the communication, I think particularly around this time, is really important, just so that, you know, everyone can kind of just be on the same page and we could kind of baseline our expectations.
Yeah, Jason says something that's powerful. My coworkers used to be very good about coming into work during the holidays 10 or so years ago. Now, the newer staff doesn't seem to give a crap, and mass call-offs every holiday is rampant. Seems as though they suffer from MFIMITY. My family is more important than your syndrome. It's really ridiculous now. You want to hear something funny? And Jason's correct about this, by the way. So I saw that when I came in. You know, if you're new, you know, and let's say you don't have a family, well, you know, kids would. I mean, it's really focused on the kids. You would work the holiday. I've done that a few times in my career, where it's like someone had kids. Okay, you know, I'll just work the double. You know, you spend time with your family, because you know in the end, eventually you'll have a family, and it's a great way to reciprocate that, because at that point, the person that has a family, maybe their kids are grown, they'll remember that, and then you're able to kind of now enjoy moments with your kids. And that's kind of, you know, what we did for each other. I also want to mention something else that Joe said. And that was a good point, Jay. Joe also made a good point too, by switching days. Now, I've done that. But I will tell you one thing. That's when the events get smaller. So here's what I mean by that. So the family's still going to celebrate with the, you know, I guess the extended family, whatever it is, you know, on those days. But then what happens is let's say it's Christmas and I don't have off on the 25th. So me and the family decided that weekend we're going to celebrate it. So one thing is it pushes back. If I have kids, push it back with the kids. But it's going to be a smaller event, because I can't expect everybody to push it back. I can't expect that. So what happens here, it winds up just being a more immediate event, which is great. It's personal and I love it, but you're still missing out on the bigger event where you have more of the family that's involved. But it is something that I did practice. Just to be fair, we would switch days, especially on, I know Thanksgiving wasn't always a Thursday for us. You know, we could have done Thanksgiving on a Tuesday or a Wednesday the day before. Having said that, though, that's not like your family's not doing nothing on the actual holiday. I mean, they're still creating memories without you. So, and I think the thing about the holidays is that the holidays heighten, you know, our emotional connection to it. It heightens the memories. So, you know, it kind of sucks to know that you're at work and, you know, people are talking about, you know, certain things in the past that you don't remember because you weren't there. And a lot of them could be great memories, including, most of the time, that's the bonding with the family, you know? So having said that, if you have kids, you're missing them bonding with maybe your siblings' kids, or, you know, your cousins' kids. It's just, you know, you're not involved in that bigger picture. But Connie, what's your thoughts on, have you ever did that switch today just to kind of, you know, accommodate maybe a celebration for you since you had to work?
So, I mean, if I had to, you know, but I usually didn't have the flexibility, right? Like as an administrator, like you go in when they call you in, right? Like it wasn't like I knew in advance that I would need to be called in on a holiday, you know. And then so here in Connecticut, we actually covered each other over the holidays. And so we covered the entire state. So if you happen to be the person covering for a particular holiday, you had 17 facilities that technically you could be on call for all day and all night, right? And so there's no real easy way to kind of prepare for that. You know, what I would do though is that if I knew there was something going on in a facility, I would try to say, like, so if we had a birthday happening, right, I would try to make sure we did the birthday cake before I knew I would have to be on a call, or if I knew I needed to go into a facility later on that evening, we do the birthday cake earlier on in the day, so I wouldn't miss like the significant part of the day, I guess, as you would call it. But I think it's, you know, anytime there's kids involved, there's some level of flexibility that you have to try to tap into, and sometimes we just don't have it, and it really does matter, you know, who's left behind. So if it's spouse, if it's family, someone who's going to be able to explain, you know, I think, as you said earlier, that it matters that mommy and daddy are on the same page. And when you get off that phone, or if you do have to leave the house to go into the office, to go into work, right, like that your spouse is sort of reinforcing that message that, you know, mommy, daddy loves you, we're gonna do this tomorrow, or we're gonna make sure this thing happens, whatever that is.
Yeah, and it's funny because Xefiel asks a great question. How does Santa get into a prison if there are no chimneys? Well, the media reported that he was smuggled in by corrupt staff. That's how media reported. You know, nothing to do with a visitor. You know, so hey, one last thing before we go off topic with some of the questions is also your facility should do something. Usually they allow food, or maybe you get a walkthrough by the admin, which is funny. It's like we want them there, but we don't want them there. We were talking about that before. It's like, man, it's crazy. Admin doesn't come by during the holidays, and when you see him walking by, what the hell's admin here for? Hopefully, let's get him out of here. Because again, on the holidays we're trying to jail, so you kind of good admin will know that, you know what, you're making a sacrifice, you're, you know, here, so they're going to try to do what they can, including, you know, maybe forgiveness of some of the rules, as long as it's properly monitored by the supervisors, to bring in food and try to create a family atmosphere inside the prison. So if you can't have memories with your real, you know, the family out there, you can have memories with the extended family, because I've had a lot of good holiday moments with the people I worked with behind the wall. So again, of course, we all want to be with our family, but having said that, we do have a family behind the wall, and sometimes if our family allows that on the outside, we're able to appreciate that just that much more. So again, I think
you made a good correction that I thought was like really, really on point. When you
I did?
Yeah, just now you were going to say your real family, and you caught yourself. But I think that's where the shift comes, right? Because when you see your family behind the wall as your family, you're not calling out, because your family behind the wall needs you just as much as your family at home needs you. And I think that's something, I don't know how we build that in facilities where we do start to look at each other as family again.
Moments like that.
Yeah, because
moments like the holiday.
Yeah, because earlier on someone had mentioned something about like the new folks who, that my family's more important than yours syndrome. Like, I think that's one of the things, right? Like when we start to really engage with each other as family, because when I came up in Rikers, like we treated each other like family. I was quite a few officers' little sister that they didn't want me get caught up with some inmate, right? They would keep an eye out and ear out. They would always be present to make sure no inmate was trying to get over on me. And like, I think they knew I was new. So it was just like, okay, listen, Connie, just stop yourself. Stop yourself right now, which I appreciate. And I think, yes, in hindsight, could it be like, I didn't take it as they were trying to undermine me, right? Because some people might think, oh, yeah, you got custody telling you what to do. No, they knew I didn't know no better. So they really just had my back. And I think because I knew that they had my back, it felt like family. And so when the holiday came and I'm driving across the bridge to go into Rikers, I've got an extra piece of sweet potato pie for somebody, right? Like my mom is actually sending an extra piece of pineapple upside down cake for somebody. Like whoever's there with me, someone's going to get some food, because my mom is like, oh, you got to go in now. And they'd send me in. She'd send me in with whatever. So I think that's the goodness of us, like truly looking at each other as family, especially during the holiday times when we know we'd all rather be home, right?
Yeah, you know, and you got to absolutely, obviously, Andre White, 100% agreement. Hey, Connie, you know what's funny is, guys, as long as your family knows that you have a commitment, you have an obligation, and you really don't have a choice in the matter, that does give you a little sense of freedom when enjoying those moments at the prison where, this could bring us more together. The holidays, because we're all going through the same sacrifice. And I think it's great that we're able to kind of know, okay, the family's going to be okay. They understand. So I can be fully invested into this moment here with everyone else here, as opposed to having everybody who family's just not understanding and we're not enjoying our moments. Because having said that, again, if you're family, be advised, we don't want to be here, but we still want to enjoy the moment. I was telling Connie, I want to hold on to that day as long as I can. I mean, as I said, holidays is you're prepping the whole time, and then the day comes and goes like this. So I want to hold on to that day, and the reason I want to hold on to that day is because I want to enjoy it. But sometimes I don't have that opportunity to enjoy it, and sometimes the family adds to that by not accepting what I have to do that day. So it's great to know that when the family accepts it, and I know they accept it, because they know that, this is my responsibility. There's nothing I can do about it. Then I'm able to be invested in this moment and truly enjoy my situation, my circumstances, knowing I still want to be with them. But because I'm not able to do that, and my family understands that, they're not blaming me. It's just they understand the situation. Now I can sit down with the people at work and truly be invested in, and maybe actually have a good Christmas or a good holiday. I'm sorry, a good holiday. One last thing before we go to some outside questions to close off. I want to talk about the importance of doing our job during the holidays. So Connie mentioned on something. So let's continue that. Connie, let's talk about the mindset of an inmate, and let's talk about how now where their state of mind is, how we have to really be on top of our game more so now than ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely have to be vigilant because both, as Andre has put here, both staff and inmate suicides are prevalent around the holiday season. And I mean, quite frankly, holiday season suicides are, even if you didn't work in the prison, right? Just because it's a challenging time of the year, people, their family, their friends, they've lost loved ones. It is. And think about the 2020 and 2021 we had, right? Losing a lot of family and friends to COVID and all the other stressors of life, right? Everything that you can think of. So just imagine that would be magnified in the prison, right? Where you've got inmates who they're going through just as much. And so it can be a very trying time, I think, for all of us. And if we aren't able to recognize the signs of each other decompensating, we're certainly not going to be able to recognize the signs of the population decompensating, right? And I think that's something that we want to brush up on. Just so, what does it look like when someone is possibly having a depressive episode? What does it look like when someone's mentally decompensating? Or what does it look like when someone has taken, medications that weren't prescribed to them, or they're taking some, black market drug, right? What do the behaviors, the body language, the mannerisms, this person used to be talkative, they're not talking anymore right now. Like, I think those are the things that we have to be a little more vigilant to address and keep eye on during this time.
Yeah, I love what Andre White says. Guys, we kind of have to police each other during the holidays. So part of it is, yes, I mean, we want to make sure we're okay all mentally, but we also want to make sure we're all up to par to doing the game, to being effective. And it is important to check on coworkers. I mean, because we're human, I think also when it comes to working around the holidays, this is also a good time for us to be working together with the other departments. Other departments may have knowledge that we don't have. And if I could tell a program provider or a mental health professional anything they want in the moment, but we see their behaviors on the unit. So we know that, maybe there's a conflict with what they're telling the mental health professional and what's happening on the unit, or vice versa. This person's expressing all these concerns to the mental health professional, but on the unit, it seems to be they're okay. So, good communication at this point between the different departments does carry a lot of weight here, because in the long run, we do need each other. And again, this is for the safety of the inmate population. So I think John V said it great. Don't neglect those tours, because guys, I'm going to tell you something. I mean, this is advice that's applied every day of the year, but especially during the holidays, guys. Especially during the holidays, because a person could be fine and they get lost in a moment. And I'm telling you, it's like, wow, that person was fine a second ago. Yeah, but they got lost in the next second, and they can act impulsively. And at that point here, if you're not doing your rounds, and guys, the funny thing is that you may not catch a planned attempt, but you better be able to account for your rounds, because that's what's going to kind of justify what people could see as a failure. But then you go back to policy and say, well, I've committed to my rounds every half an hour. The person took their life in between my rounds. So again, we're, the ones that really want to do it, we get lucky when we catch those. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to commit to what's expected of you. And God forbid, if there is a suicide on your shift, you should be able to fall back and say, well, I did my rounds every half an hour. Because at that point, if an inmate wants to take their own life, they're going to find a way to circumvent through the routines of what's expected. So again, most likely when we catch something, it's usually our gut telling us to turn back around. And if we listen to it, we're good. If we don't listen to it, it's going to happen. But usually something tells us. So again, when you catch something, unless the person want to be caught, if this was a real attempt, it's usually because something inside you motivated you to, let me go check this guy one more time, because he usually doesn't say anything. And today he wished me good night. Something as simple as that, or usually he's, at sleep by now, but now he seems to be pacing in his room. Let me just double check. And guys, don't ever get complacent with that. If your gut's telling you something, just go back and check. Just go through the motions. Be unpredictable. But
I think to your point though, that you mentioned, like, so if an inmate has a plan, they have a plan, right? And that means that they've taken the time to understand how often you tour. They've probably taken the time to understand the behavior of the officer on a particular shift, right? So like, if I know I got this officer who's always on the swizzle, who's always up and moving, that's probably not the shift that I'm going to attempt on, because I'm going to get caught, especially if my intention is to actually complete that suicide. So I think that's something that says a lot, that one, the inmate is going to be planned, but two, are doing your tours regularly, you're going to probably botch up that inmate's plan. But typically when they have a plan, they usually know what shift, what officer, like they know what they want to do and when they want to do it based on what they have picked up on over the time that they were in a particular unit.
Yeah, loud and proud, Joseph. I've seen that personally. Come to find out, there was one count when an officer just entered a number from last count, inmate was dead for an hour. Yeah, guys, I mean, we've discussed this before, especially when we talked about the Epstein thing, where, you're held to what you put. And even if you can't make the tour, then you document why you couldn't make it. It has to be justified. Maybe an emergency happened on the unit, or whatever it is. You have to document. If you did not commit to a tour, never write that you have, because that's where the lying comes in. That's where it comes that we can't trust you. There have been people that have gotten sidetracked, where I know it sucks. They can still get in trouble, but if they're caught on camera falling asleep and they're writing on the document that I did my tours all day. And when they review the camera, it's like, this guy was sleeping. It's like, hey, you know what? I'll take the hit for sleeping. Whatever happens, happens, because wasn't feeling good that day. I don't know what happened, but I never lied. Yep. I never lied. The key is the fact that people tend to lie, and that's what really gets them in trouble. I know people that are, they're overwhelmed, they're understaffed, and they got to commit to tours that when you realistically look at the logbook, they can't do that. They're not by themselves. They can't tour both these units in a matter of time that they're putting in the book per policy. So what they got to do is they got to write down the specific times. And if they couldn't make a tour, write down that you couldn't make a tour, because later on when you want to say, well, I can't do this because it's understaffed. I get it. But why are you writing a logbook that you have the last couple of weeks? Why are you only telling me now the moment we discovered a body? You got to note it at that point that, hey, I know policy's telling me I got to be there every half an hour, but we're under and I can't make it. So these are the rounds I'm doing. It's like, well, you're not within policy. That's not my fault. and I wrote it in the logbook, my counts. And if you were a supervisor, you would have seen this the last couple of days, and you would have took a note of it. So who's going to get caught up will be the supervisor first. The supervisor would have looked at the logbook and should have said, hey, these counts are supposed to be done every half an hour. Why are you doing them every hour? Oh, good point. I don't have a partner today. So I got to cover this unit and the other unit, you know? But now, mind you, if you have a dead body and you don't write that stuff, and agency is going to say, well, we didn't know that was happening. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You lied. So you could blame all the issues in the world, and we'll listen to it, understaffing and all this other stuff. But in the end, or I was tired, I was mandated 4 days in a row. I get it. But you wrote in the logbook that you did the tours. See what the problem is? You know, so again, like Andre said, tour. Write tour, and if you can't, write down that you can't, but better be able to justify why. What's your thoughts on that, Connie, real quick before we move forward to another
Listen,
point?
we've talked about documentation many times, right? No matter how many times you document, you have to keep documenting, because you don't want to wait until there's an event that all of a sudden, here's all the reason why this thing went wrong, right? You need to be able to have that you've documented all the while, short staffing. I can't do everything that policy says I should be able to do within the time that I'm here, because I don't have the amount of, I don't have the time to do it, right? Like, I think if you can document that you've escalated, you like, I can't express that, how important that is, that the documentation, you allow that to speak for yourself, for itself. Because, I think it was Loud and Proud who said living, breathing flesh, right? Like, you can't say you did the tour and you didn't do it. I mean, I know we had in our mental health unit, we had people on that 15-minute watch. We had people on constant watch. And there's no way that someone is going to hurt themselves during a constant watch or the 15-minute. And you're saying that you're doing it. You documented that you do it. If there was an event, something happened, someone pulled you off post for whatever reason, like, you're better off writing that than writing that you were there and you saw and you were doing your job.
I love that. Now, by the way, you're right, because usually they get, even with use of force cases, guys, a little off topic, but most people get afraid to write what they did, and most likely it was justified. Then when they get investigated, they wind up getting in trouble for not writing what they did, as opposed to just admitting it and then just being able to justify your decision. So John B's got a question, so we can travel off topic. I think we covered a good portion of the holidays. So John V. Hey, guys, I love this question. It's one of my favorite questions to answer. But what I'll do is I'll have Connie go first, and then I'll answer after, because I think this is a question I don't want to bias her answer. Because I do have a great response, but you know what? I want Connie to go first. Connie, you okay with going first with this one?
I'm okay going first.
Okay, so can I at least read the question?
Why?
Well, someone has to read it. Do you want to read it?
We could see that we could
see it, but there's probably someone that watches the show that can't read.
Oh,
could be, and this show is for everyone.
Yes.
So I'll read.
This is an inclusive show.
Yes, it's an inclusive show. So let me read, please. Hey guys, do you feel there's conflict between the new generation of corrections and the old generation, where you had to have time on the job to get some respect? Some new officers don't understand. So Connie, let's attack this one. It's one of my favorite questions.
All right. So I definitely think that there's a difference between old generation and new generation. I mean, I think so. For one, I think that there's so much has changed in corrections over the years. And I think the old generation has the benefit of being the old generation, right? Like, of seeing the evolution, understanding how policies, procedures have evolved. They have the history behind why something changed or why we do something some kind of way versus another way. I think the other thing that they also bring to the table is just the experience. They have what happened when I trusted my gut. They have what happened when I didn't trust my gut. What happened when I didn't shine the flashlight, which Gangi always talks about, from ceiling to floor. When I go to the door, why it matters that I put my foot at the door when I go to open a cell. There's all these things that experience and years on the job have taught the old timers that simply the new folks don't get when they come through the academy. Like, I think, yes, we are moving in the direction towards rehabilitation, and certainly there's There's those, I think, staples. Here are the requirements, the things that are tried and true from safety and security perspective. But I think the practical application that the newcomers don't have is what's missing. And so, yes, I think there is a significant gap between the way we've done it historically versus the way sort of the newcomers are coming in. And I think there may be some lack of respect for the experience just because they don't know how important it is yet. They have no context to how valuable the experience of the old timers is. Like, I mean, that has the experience of the old timers have saved so many lives. The things that they've learned and done and implemented on their own are the things that have informed and driven policy changes. And so I think there's just a respect that you have to have for that.
Yeah. So obviously I agree with Connie 100%. I just want to add something because, me and Connie are always reading books on leadership and trying to find out ways that they could apply to the world that we're in, which is actually the magic of it all, guys. Because even when we give you general advice here, the magic comes from how can that be applied into what it is that we do every day. So, by the way, guys, for the people that take this advice and run with it, there's courage in that. Because, again, we know generally what the concern is, but you have to find a way to adopt it specifically. So I want to show you something, guys, that came to my mind. This book, great book. I'm going to tell you why. 8 Paradoxes of Great Leadership. Read it in 1 week. 1 weekend. It's a quick read, but it mentions that every great leader deals with kind of like a paradox. And in this paradox here, the one that when I think about when it comes to the old and the new working together is a paradox that is stubborn and open-minded. And I'll tell you why. Let me just explain something real quick. So when the new boots come into this profession, right, we want them to be welcomed. We want them to be embraced. We want them to trust the people that they're working next to. Only because right now, guys, besides the fact that we need to maintain proper staffing, we want the right people to be in this profession. So people are able to have resources now. When they come in, they could find values that connect themselves to this profession. So the people that are coming in, as long as we're not hiring out of desperation, there are going to be a few that have purpose. They're purpose driven. They want to have some value in this profession. So when they come in, they're looking for people that have a shared purpose, right? So now the problem is when you connect them to someone that's disgruntled or doesn't believe in the value of the work that's being done, we lose out on 3 precious moments. The moment of a strong connection, the moment of pride, because think about it, guys, you graduate this academy, these new people, it's a moment to be proud of. Not everybody can do this job. So you're stepping into something that is a great achievement. But there's also an insight moment where the person is, when you connect them to somebody that's really disgruntled, the person's going to start losing motivation, and their questions when they go through some bullshit, it's going to be like, why am I even doing this? As opposed to really setting a good foundation, connecting them to the right people, and then just when there are tough times in this profession, the tough times are more challenging. And what they could do is they can ask right questions, keep themselves motivated because they feel a connection to the people. Now, the reason why I say stubborn and open-minded is that the new people coming in, they're coming in with a mindset that isn't stuck in the past. So there's a good chance that they can influence some really good change because, again, they're not stuck in the routines of everything. So it's good for us to listen to them when they come in and they're excited, they have ideas, and not to minimize that, to be open-minded. But also, it's okay to be stubborn when it comes to the core values of what we represent. So as an older staff member, I get it. There's some core values that you have, and no one's telling you have to change that. But that doesn't mean you can't be open to some level of innovation as long as it's reflective of the core values, which is your dedication, commitment, integrity. Everything that makes up the definition of what it takes to work in this profession, ultimately coming down to levels of trust. Can I trust you? So having said that, this initial relationship should be a balance of the new and the old, and they should welcome each other as another paradox, a learning and someone that's learning and someone that's a teacher. Again, mentoring is a two-way street. So even as a teacher, you're a learner. So I think that there's a lot of benefits here that we're not taking advantage of because of our position. Oh, rookies, man, they just I just can't deal with them. They're just such a burden and all this other stuff. I don't have time for them. And then maybe the academy's elevating the training so much that, this is what we're doing today. So the people that you're going to work next to, they don't know what type of training in. So the rookies coming in thinking that they're better than the senior staff, but experience is experience. If you're in a position to set the foundation for the newer staff to have that respect, and if you work in the facility and you're in a position to influence the senior staff to embrace the rookies, we need to do that. Because to me, that's the partnership that becomes evergreen. Because Connie mentioned something about the light at the door. That was taught to me from a senior officer who took the time to share a story with me, the why of why things are done. That means the person invested their time in me, and I remember that to this day. It's evergreen 20 years later. So if you want to have an impact that lasts, it involves an investment in time and a connection on a personal level. So let's see. By the way, Connie, what's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on that? That's the first time we brought up the paradox. What's your thoughts on the being stubborn with the core values, but also being open to what could be new because you're not stuck in the parameters of a routine?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when we talk about, change versus evolution, right? Like with evolution, we're not saying to throw away what you've already learned, right? We're just saying that there are new concepts, there's new stuff that's being brought to the forefront, and there's nothing wrong with integrating, right? There's nothing wrong with considering how this applies. Not to say you throw away all of your years of experience. So I think, in that context, that it really does matter that someone is willing and open to kind of receive the new information. And maybe that's what's going on between, sort of the old timers and the new boots, right? That there's this way that the new boots may be coming in with fresh new information. They don't have the context that the old timers may have.
Well said.
Right. And so when they see that the old timers are doing things a certain way, it's not that they just want to change it. We were just trained to do something different, right? And I think that's when it matters that we're communicating, when we're just talking to each other, right? Like it should be okay for me to ask, like, so why do you do it that way? Right? Like I just came from the academy. This is what they taught us. And it shouldn't be the response, do it this way because I told you to, right? Because I think that would make the best impact when we could explain the why. So we do this because of this thing, right? And that's when you have the floor to pull forward the historical reference. We do this because of this, but I understand where they're coming from, right? Like I understand why they gave you this new instruction in the academy, because this is the direction we're moving towards. Because I think that's when the conversation becomes productive, right? And it's not so much that you just have a bad disposition or you're just negative about change, because I don't think that's the case. I think that there's a lot of things that are coming forward that may be seen as change, but it really is just, this is what we're supposed to be doing now. No one's saying throw away the old. We're just saying with this moving forward, let's figure out how to incorporate it.
Yeah, John V makes a very good point. Thanks, John. It's a good point. I agree with you guys with some of the senior staff, but new officers need to understand what we do. So definitely what Connie just said. I mean, we're not minimizing experience. 100% experience is key. I mean, again, what you do first as a senior staff is first you empower an example. You model the behavior. If you're a rookie, you look to model behavior of senior staff who have walked the walk. That's why, to be honest with you guys, the senior staff that are in a position to train, they also have to be in a position to grow as well. I mean, you can't expect the people that are in this position to have an influence over the rookies to just be stagnant. They have to be able to have some level of growth, because at the end of the day is, if I want to learn and you partner me with someone who hasn't made an effort to grow since they got in this profession, you're messing with my ability. And sometimes the people are like, well, this rookie wants to know too much. It's because you put a lid on your own career, and this rookie's already at your level on day one, sad to say. When you truly have an influence, it's because you have continued to grow through your experience. And then definitely, I'll tell you something, guys, if I have respect, let's say I'm a rookie and I'm looking to build a connection with somebody, the first thing I do is I don't look at your words, I look at your behavior. I model your behavior.
You're out here stepping on some toes.
What happened?
I said you out here stepping on some toes.
Well, no, you want it. I think people understand this. I mean, you want to make sure, guys, that the problem is we have this connection that is a concern. You know, you have a lot of people that give the rookies the sink or swim. We can't do that. We have to be examples for what they can model. And then after that, the cool thing is that once they model your example, then you can empower them to create their own experiences. You know, I mean, I think that's the key. But the problem is that, you know, when rookies come in, most of the time what we do is we push them to do work. And it's not to mentor them, man. It's not to show them value. It's just, I don't want to do nothing today. So I don't mind having a rookie because the rookie is going to do all my work and I'm going to sit back and relax in the office. No. You know, you want the rookie on day one to have value for the work being done behind the wall. And as a mentor, you can teach them value, even in an inventory, in a search, whatever it is. It's not the sake of work for work. It's the sake of work with guidance and showing them that the work has value, you know, as opposed to I'm going to go sit in my office and, you know, overwhelm them and I could do nothing all day. Because think about the separation there as well. You got a rookie that's overwhelmed. They're not learning anything and they're hating you because no one wants to help them. What a divide. And people are like, well, that's what I went through when I was a rookie. Well, how did you feel? You know, let's break away from that because at this point, we want people to be motivated. Guys, let me tell you something. The incentives for this profession is shit. We know that right now. It's getting better, but for now, it's shit. What's keeping people in this profession is our connection to each other. So if you have someone coming in, believe in what we're saying here on this platform, believe in what they see in social media, and then when they come into the facility, they get partnered with someone who's disgruntled and, don't want to be bothered with them. What's their motivation? Why do they want to stay? And guys, I still say it's a prideful moment. When someone graduates the academy or whatever it is and enters this profession as a career, we don't know what journey they've been on, but this could be the first career they had. They could be satisfied in their choices. And the sad thing is you partner them with someone that's disgruntled, that minimizes the profession, that says it's a joke. It negates the pride that they came walking in with. So think about that as an initial foundation. The person's coming in, well-researched, found values in what we do through the platform and align these values with what it is that they expect from the profession. So now they're coming in with a good core set of values. And by the way, guys, if you come in with good core values and a good, strong belief, highly likely you'll get manipulated. Highly unlikely, you'll get manipulated. Highly unlikely you'll get manipulated because you have beliefs. You have values that go past you. They're selfless. So now what happens is you partner them with somebody who doesn't share that, who doesn't, who minimizes someone that comes in like that, saying, well, you're a fool. This is corrections. You ain't going to find any of that. Well, then that person there, you're pushing them away. And if that's a high achiever, you know what? This profession isn't what I thought. And it's not because it's the profession. It's the one person you put them next to on day one. And mind you, guys, day one matters because if they don't have enough positive experiences to negate the negative, especially on day one, that's the foundation. That's all they know. So after day one, they go home and they say, this profession sucks. And it's not because the profession sucks. It's because you put them next to a piece of shit who didn't know how to promote the values that this profession has, the core values that make this profession matter, a greater service to others. And it is frustrating because the same people that say we aren't doing enough are the same people that are probably not doing enough to keep the person that wants to be in here for the right reasons. Because here's the funny thing. We spend a lot of time pushing how much we deserve, how much we need to make. And I get it, I'm not negating that, but hear me out. We spend a lot of time pushing for that external incentive. But when you get somebody coming in that has a true drive, not about the money, but a true drive because they want to have a difference, they want to make an impact, and you push them away, that person could have had an impact on the career. That person could have did something later on for us that you don't know about. But we haven't even given that person a chance to reach their potential because you shut them down right from day one. The worst thing you could ever do is partner a go-getter next to someone who is not a high achiever. They'll put a lid on the go-getter, and then the go-getter loses all sense of potential, which blocks us from evolving. Sorry, guys. It's just what it is, Connie. You have to admit, Connie, this seems to be the same battle over and over again. What's your thoughts on that, Connie? Please get on the pedestal and yell.
Listen, here's the thing, right? Like, it matters who we expose new people to, right? Like, because that old timer is going to set the tone, right? It's almost that old timer, because sometimes you don't. So let's just put it clearly, right? You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And sometimes you first walk through the door, you get paired with an old timer who has a bad attitude, and the first thing you want to do is walk away. There is no incentive for me to want to stay here and deal with this. Is this the type of person? Is this how everyone is, right? Like, because it's easy to generalize, right? Because that becomes that person who had all that potential, who's willing to walk away because they don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to have to meet four more of this type of person, right? Because that person is setting the tone for how I'm going to expect as a new person, how I'm going to expect to be treated, right? Like, and do I want to continue down this road? I think, it's the journey. We get on this journey as like, oh man, I got in, right? And then when you get in, the last thing that you're expecting is to walk into what you're thinking is going to be a brotherhood that someone's kind of not treating you as such. And I get it. You're going to earn that, right? Over time, you build trust, you earn that, you build relationships, and all that's great. But there's no excuse for us treating a brand new person like crap, right? I think we've already seen that the sink or swim doesn't work. We see how divisive that sink or swim can be. We see how dangerous it could be, right? And so why would we put anyone through that as they're first walking through the gate unnecessarily?
Yeah, and it's great because, I mean, Loud and Proud even said, oh no, John V. Wait, I want to make sure I get the John V. been there. So it's John V. that says, oh yeah, Loud and Proud, me too. The senior officers threw the keys and said, "This is your block." Grabbed the newspaper and puts his feet up. That's the problem, guys. Hey, what's up, Oklahoma school teacher? Thank you for your service. Hey, but that's the thing, guys. The point is that when we have the rookies come in, that we have to show them value in the work that's being done. The separation comes when you just overwhelm the rookie and you're losing out on these opportunities to teach them value behind the work. And that's not just with custody, guys. That's, just with anybody in the position to train. I mean, sometimes people in a position to train look at it as an easy day because they're not going to invest in the person. They're just going to delegate from afar. That's not what your position is. You're a chance to be a mentor, which means that you're going to teach them the quality behind the work, which means that you're going to get up and do some of the work with them, but you're going to, kind of embrace the moment, share personal stories, connect with them, and give them a moment that they'll never forget. Guys, when you first come in, the first day of a job is usually something you'll always remember. I remember my first day. Again, there's a lot of emotion happening. So the thing is you tend to remember the interactions that matter, and in some cases, the interactions that don't. Why do you want to be part of the interactions that don't? Why not create something positive? So, again, if you have experience, wouldn't you like to push that on somebody so then they can carry that with them? So for whatever it is that your legacy lives on. I don't understand how we wouldn't want to be a part of that. It's a positive influence on someone else who, again, let me tell you something real quick, guys. And this is crazy. We've provided a lot of great information on this channel, on social media, a lot of great professionals. And when I say we provided, guys, I'm not talking about just us on the show. I'm talking about the community here on the right. And also the Keepers of Chaos, the Correctional Officer Brother. We've created a lot of good advice that people are now taking with them every step of their career. Evergreen advice. Advice that's playing out when we don't even know about it. I mean, we even wrote books. I mean, to write a book and be a mentor to someone that you'll never meet. That's pretty damn impressive, But the reason why that's being done is because we want people to kind of know, one, the value behind this profession so they have purpose and they're motivated, but also some tips so they can learn from our mistakes so we don't do them again. And if you could apply it, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's even the better part of it all. The fact that you're able to watch a video and then go out there in that real world and apply it. The benefit for something like this, that means I don't care if it's one person, 11 or 18,000. It doesn't matter because even if one person can apply it, that's where the information becomes wisdom. That's where we're at now. We're providing information so you yourself can apply it and make it wisdom. Connie, I know you have a thought on that. What's your thoughts?
So it wasn't on that. I was looking at someone's comment, Facebook user who said, "Get an
Wait,
officer."
Facebook user that said he still reads a great inmate manipulation book that can be found on Amazon by Anthony Gangi. Not that quote, right?
Well, it could be the same Facebook user, but the Facebook user says, "Get an officer hurt or caught up because they rely on the inmates, not the officers, because they abandon them during training." And so I just thought, like, that's just so real. I mean, I think about sometimes even like when the nurses are, first getting on the floor and, they start working, but they don't really know how to work with the inmate population. Right. And if we take away the person who they're supposed to be shadowing too quickly because of staffing or for whatever reason, it does leave them vulnerable to get hurt or to start relying on the inmates for information, which I'm like, wow, that's just major.
Well, thank you, Natalie, for a compliment. She goes, thank you for the groundbreaking channel, Terror Talk, for those of us that work in corrections. Thank you for watching. And also, thank you for your service. Thank you, everybody here, for your service, because we created this channel to kind of remind people that you are also appreciated in what you do. Because, again, working in corrections in any capacity is extremely hard, but we get the job done. And sometimes it's not even about recognition. It's about showing you guys that you are truly appreciated. So we're going to try to do a live show Thursday night. I'm going to try to get Connie on. Yes? Yes?
Should be able to.
Yeah, this is like, can I tell you something, guys? This is like when you're proposing to somebody live. Because it's tough for them to say no. You know what I mean? That's why I did it. Because it's going to be hard for her to say no on TV. I mean, think about it. No's hard to say. But actually, Connie could say no. She worked in a facility, but not to me. Not
yes,
to my.
You better let them know. I never tell you no.
No. See, but I never tell you no, Connie. I need you.
Yeah.
Connie provides the balance to the yin and the yang. And I'm going to try to have Russ, who is aggressive, but we love him. But he provides a very balanced perspective. And I think we're going to just kind of have a free fall Q&A. So if you guys have some questions, we'll probably be doing around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or 8 or 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, give or take, depending on when Russ gets out of work, because he lives out in California. So if you have some questions, just let us know, and, have them ready, and we'll be willing to give out our live dialogue. We like doing live. Again, we've done over 1,000-something videos on this channel. So the live kind of gives us a chance to figure out questions that we never even thought needed to be asked. Hey, Connie, author of Cage Was a Cocoon. See what I did there? It's only fair.
I see what you did there.
Could be found on Amazon. Hey, by the way, before we come to end, thank you guys for all participating. It's your questions and your discussion that does help us step up the dialogue. So it's very appreciated. Hey, Connie, any closing thoughts?
I guess what I just want to say is that, holiday season can be a tough time for all of us. And if you need support, like, just reach out for the support. The last thing we want is for anyone to feel like they're alone or that they have support out there. I mean, Anthony and I get emails all the time from folks. And if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to those who are closest to you, like, reach out to us and just know that you're not alone, and that we recognize the challenge that is presented as you keep us safe. Right. And we just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, she has books. It's Connie. That's you, Connie, Facebook user. Yeah, she has Cage Was Her Cocoon. And maybe, I think me and Connie are going to try to eventually work on a leadership book. Again, I retire in 5 years. Definitely be focusing on books when I retire. It's just I want to stay committed, because what's unique about writing a book is that you want to get it out. If you take too long to go back, you lose your train of thought. So you really have to find time and really commit yourself for a long haul, because you can't. To me, it's tough to go back to, because then you forget what you wrote and you don't want to sound repetitive. And by the way, guys, happy holidays to everyone. Let's see, how many years will you have in? 5 more years. So I retire in 2027 with 25 years in. So I start my 20th year December 2nd. So, and I've always worked in a prison, from an officer to a sergeant. Now I'm the superintendent. This is a picture of me when I was a sergeant. I was working at East Jersey State Prison in Rahway. A lot of people may know it as where they filmed the movie Lockup with Sylvester Stallone. I worked there, but before that, I worked as an officer at a female facility for about 8 years and change. And then now I'm at on the administrative level. I'm a superintendent. But guys, I love having the dialogue. This was great. We'll figure out what topic will work for us on Thursday. If you guys have any ideas, email us. Hey, Just happy holidays, and hopefully you guys can see the whole thing. You can watch the replay. As always, guys, love the participation. Please, next Thursday around the same time, 8 or 9. If you want to share it out, get some more people involved. Better, the more the better, because we got some really good discussions, and maybe even next time I could bring some of you guys on. Sometimes that's good too. I know Loud and Proud, he's retired, so I'm sure he's got some experience that he can be willing to share and probably now able to share because he's retired. And by the way, we'll dedicate this one. So let's see. We love Joe. We got Joe, Justin. Let's dedicate this one to Natalie today, a teacher for the DOC out of Oklahoma, 8 years behind the fence. I love when the teachers get tough and say that. I got to admit, I do love that. Where are you a teacher? I work behind the fence. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, what does that mean? Well, we know what it means because we all work in corrections. So if I may say so, Natalie, thank you for your 8 years of service and dedication. All right, guys. Take care, guys. Good night, all. Good night, Sam. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.